goal is to develop players from all over the world. We have many nationalities of players that join our academy. A lot of the younger grassroots teams are managed and coached by parents who want to work with the best partners, who have got the right morals and are doing the right things for the right reasons. Some people don't like stats or data. Some people just like to see the raw, what's in front of their eyes, but that can be misleading sometimes and give false information of actually how effective a player is. Definitely good fitness levels, brilliant motivation in terms of being passionate, which is massively important because it is, like I said, a very competitive industry.
So welcome everyone to episode 3 of the IKF Workshop Diaries, and today we are honored to have Neil Hilliard, the head of recruitment and admissions at FCV International Football Academy. With a deep understanding of football development and a passion for guiding young athletes, Neil has been instrumental in FCV's partnership with India Khelo Football, IKF. So in this episode, we will dive into how this collaboration came into effect and what will be the new pathways that they will bring on for Indian footballers in the workshop. So without any further ado, Neil, hi, welcome to this episode. Any words that you would like to say?
No, thank you for inviting me, first of all. It's a pleasure to meet you and to develop our partnership further with IKF. And we're really looking forward to coming out to India in a few weeks' time. So, yeah, thank you. And thank you for inviting me.
So first question here, can you give us a brief overview of FCV International Academy and its mission?
Sure, yeah. So FCV International Football Academy has been operating now for about 20 years. We were the first private academy to set up within the UK. So ultimately our goal is to develop players from all over the world. We have many nationalities of players that join our academy. Our mission is to develop them to the point where we can get them out on trials at professional clubs. So everything that a player has when they join FCV is replicated to what they'd get if they were at a professional clubs academy. And in terms of their training, their schedules, their education, as well as living with us and being part of the FCV family in a way. So a lot of our players are here for quite a long time, developing their football and doing education. So our mission is to, develop them, try and get them to the highest level of their game that they can. And then obviously supporting them throughout that duration of time as well. The main goal is to get as many as we can into professional or semi-professional contracts, and then support them on their education journeys to support that and back that up as well.
Yeah. And Neil, just before starting off, can you explain your role in FCV International Academy?
Yeah, my role is very much sort of working with our marketing team and our coaches. So ultimately my role is heading up the admissions side, so helping players and families make the right choices in terms of maybe joining FCV, what types of courses they want to join on, support through the visa process, whether that's student visas or visitor visas and all those kind of things. And just then, once players are here, a lot of my role is day-to-day supporting the rest of the academy, making sure the players are having the best experience they can, and making sure they're settled in. Obviously, for a lot of our players, it might be the first time they've stayed away from home for a significant period. It might be the first time that they've been in another country. So, we to get the best out of them, we want them happy as possible so they can, then develop and flourish on the training field and the education side if they're doing that as well. So a lot of my role is speaking with parents from all over the world, and giving the best sort of service that the academy can to make sure that those players reach their full potential.
Yeah. And talking about FCV, what sets them apart as the UK's first private football academy?
I think the amount of time we've been doing it, certainly that experience of fine-tuning the best way of delivering the best outcomes for players. We have an amazing facility here. I think we're probably the only private academy in the country that has facilities like we do. We have a 66-acre private countryside estate that the players live on, with football pitches, other facilities, in indoor swimming pool, sports hall, gym. So the players get that home environment where they can, develop and settle into their surroundings as quickly as possible. And then our coaching team, first and foremost, we have UEFA A qualified coaches, former professionals that the players work with on a daily basis. It's a very busy schedule for a player. They may not be used to training at this level and to the extent of the training schedule and how busy they are. And fine tuning that to the point where we are able to develop players to a point where they are ready for trials with professional clubs. And I think our experience over the years, we've had many players go on and sign professional contracts, not only in the UK, but around the world. And we have partnerships with clubs both in the UK and around the world where we can send players on trials. And then it's kind of a combination of our development of them and then onto the player to, deliver the best performance they can, both with us on site and when they get those trial opportunities as well.
Yeah. And since you have been doing this for 20 years, FCV has been doing this for 20 years. So how has the training and education been with the same? Like you have to keep on evolving each and every year. So how do you do that?
Yeah. We're always looking for new opportunities in terms of giving potential players and current players the best sort of experience and getting the most out of their time with us, both on the training pitch and opportunities both within education and after they finished education. So we've, in terms of the education pathways, we've recently all of our education is provided by Loughborough College, which is the #1 sports college in the UK. The likes of Ben Chilwell, Jude Bellingham studied at that college, and a lot of the Olympic athletes from Great Britain studied at that college. It's an incredible facility for us to be able to partner with, and for our players to get a really good education at. So recently, we've introduced a whole range of degree courses that players can come in and study as well. On top of that, we've started an under-23s team, as well as our men's semi-professional team that sits above the main academy, but those players have that opportunity to develop into those levels of football. So always looking to give players more experience against tougher opposition, against higher standards. We're always looking at the best leagues that we can play in that suits our players. We want to test them as much as possible. And then we're always fine-tuning the training schedule and bringing in new things, whether that's different strength and conditioning sessions, more one-to-one strength and conditioning sessions, individual plans for players, because players all come in different shapes and sizes and all need different goals for different physicalities and things like that. On the education front, we work very closely with our academic partners, in terms of getting feedback to parents on how their sons are doing at the college academically, and then supporting them on their next steps. It is a very competitive industry, the football industry, in terms of getting those professional or semi-pro contracts. So then, what can we do to help them? We don't just want players coming and staying with us and then leaving with nothing. We want to move them on into, something productive.
Football and the academics, because, the players that will be present in the academy, they are maintaining their football as well as their academics. So how do you give support to them if they are facing any kind of difficulty?
Yeah, we take that really seriously. I think in terms of, as I mentioned, players may be coming from different parts of the world, may have limited English maybe. So we have a highly skilled and trained residential team that look after the players during the night. So overnight, they've got that sort of support system. We have a head of player welfare who is, that day-to-day person that can help players, particularly in the first few weeks when they're settling in, to, make sure that they've got everything they need in terms of, settling in and being comfortable. We can get players registered at doctor's surgeries. We get them set up with UK bank accounts. All those kind of day-to-day things is important. So the players can just focus on what they're here for ultimately. In terms of their football side, it's 50% us to keep them engaged, just like at any club. In terms of the coach's role is very much a mentor. Some players need different types of mentoring. They'll all have meetings with the coaches on a fairly regular basis to set strengths and weaknesses and constant analysis, both on the the skills and the tactics, both and the fitness levels as well. So it's our job to keep them motivated and keep them engaged, because it's competitive. It's they may have peaks and troughs in terms of how their games are going, how their performances are going, and that's on us to keep them motivated, engaged, and in the best mental state they can be in. And that coincides with working with the player, the academy, and the parents, and then the same at the college as well. Making sure that the tutors and the heads of curriculum at the college are fully aware of any new players coming in and any support needs that they may have. But the college is excellent at what they do as well. So it's quite a well-oiled machine when the boys are here and well into the system, and once they've settled in, they all really enjoy their time with us.
Yeah. And before diving into the collaboration with IKF, since you are from UK, and there's a whole different grassroots development in UK as compared to India. We are still developing in football, especially. So, what's the grassroots football like in UK?
Very well established, as you can imagine. We have we have soccer tots. Your under fours doing little soccer camps and things like that. And then starting into sort of 9-a-side fixtures from sort of under 10s, and then going up to 11-a-side. And there's teams, there's hundreds and hundreds of teams at that all those age groups, all the way up until sort of your 18 men's football age. So, it's not necessarily the case in different parts of the world. We've learned that through our experiences of working with academies and different partners from around the world, that not everywhere's got that infrastructure. But football is the most popular sport in the world, and I think we can play a part in giving young players an opportunity. Coaching is obviously massively important in terms of the coaching levels that players can get. Often in the UK, it may be similar in India, but often in the UK, a lot of the younger grassroots teams are managed and coached by parents. Some of the families of the boys, but it's a volunteering role. Ultimately, a lot of these parents probably used to play football to some level, and are just trying to pass that on and work with young players to bring through that talent. And then those ones that stand out obviously can then be selected for their local academies, whether that's your local professional clubs academies, under 12s, under 15s. So we have all that as well as the pyramid of football, professional football within the UK, where you've obviously got the Premier League and the other professional divisions. And then you go into non-league football, where there's at least 10 steps of non-league football, which our men's team play in. So there's a whole pyramid of different levels before you even get to that men's football level. So I think it's, with populations, like India have got, there must be lots and lots of talent there. It's impossible for there not to be. It's just, I think, going to take time to get those grassroots levels in. And find those talents, because they're going to be there. It's just a case of developing them and getting them as best coaching as they can, and then and then seeing where it can go. But it's definitely an exciting time.
Yeah. And since you mentioned about the grassroots development in UK, it is already well established, and in India we are still developing. So we want to improve, just like UK. We want to be like UK in football, but let's see how we will develop, because we are still developing in football. So let's see what's the pace in which we develop. So coming back to the collaboration part, how did the collaboration come about with IKF? What exactly did you like about IKF?
The collaboration came apart through Chris McGrath, who works for Pro Soccer Global, who's worked with us for a couple of years now. We recently moved to our new facility, and Chris reached out to us, came along, had a chat, really liked what he does in terms of workshops and development around the world. And then we kind of talked about various things, different sort of football countries that maybe, like we've just discussed, haven't got that infrastructure quite in place yet, that we could maybe help, and talked about coaching levels and things like that. So moving on to obviously meeting the IKF team, it's been a really interesting experience learning from those guys in terms of what they're trying to do out in India. It sounds really well organised, and we're really well ran, which is certainly something that we want to work with the best partners who have got the right morals and are doing the right things for the right reasons. Not everywhere's like that, unfortunately, in the football industry. But I think we're always keen to find the right people in the right countries that we can help them and they can help us, and that's what a good partnership is. And helping to promote what IKF do over in India. It sounds fantastic in terms of the programs that they run and the tournaments, and now these workshops, which we're excited to be a part of.
Yeah, yeah, and just just to ask you that this will be the first time that FCV will be coming to India, right? This will be the first workshop for IKF that FCV will be part of. So since IKF has already conducted 3 workshops previously, season 1, season 2, and season 3, and talking with Chris McGrath, I've already done a podcast with him. So he had mentioned that the players are developing in Indian football, means the progress is slow, but it is developing. So,
Yeah.
what do you think about Indian football in general? Means, what's the progress like?
I think from obviously it's our first time coming out there, so I'm quite excited to see. We've had Indian players at the academy. We're getting more and more, so we can see that it's definitely a developing area where players are wanting to come and test themselves in England and see how they fit in. They've been good. The boys that we've had so far, we've got a few more starting in a few weeks' time, so I'm looking forward to seeing how they get on. I think I'm looking forward to coming out there and obviously working with Chris and the team and seeing what the levels are like. And just trying to look out for, see what the standards compare to with some of the boys we've had here at the academy. And then obviously my job is, have a chat with them, talk to their parents and see what their plans are in terms of, their football careers and see where we can take them. But, it's from what Chris has told me, there's definitely a lot of talent. There's bound to be, it did surprise me, that I wasn't under the impression that football was massive in India, but it is, and that's the same in other parts of the world where you wouldn't think it's necessarily the number one sport. But it doesn't surprise me that football is, because it's such a loved game around the world. And so I'm excited to see what the talent is out there. Can't wait to see it. Certainly the boys that we've had from India have been impressive. And then I think it's a case of there must be many more that can come into the professional game in the future. That's what we'd like to see.
Yeah. And just like you mentioned that your academy has some Indian players. So just to ask you that, do you find any difference between the Indian players and the players from UK or from other parts of Europe, that there is some kind of difference in the playing style, in the decision-making abilities compared to both of them?
Yeah, I think obviously our sort of players have been in various levels of grassroots. So, but that doesn't necessarily equate to you can learn bad habits, from poor coaching. So I think from the players that we've seen, they're certainly very fit. Was certainly something that we've noticed. Definitely good fitness levels. Brilliant motivation in terms of being passionate, which is massively important, because it is, like I said, a very competitive industry. And certainly the boys we've had from India are incredibly polite, first and foremost, loved by the team here. But, on the field, they're 100% focused, which you don't always get, especially when boys have been through various levels of grassroots, through different coaches and things like that. But we've certainly found all the players that we've had from India that's joined the academy, 100% dedicated, 100% there on time, ready to go every Monday, and giving their all. So, technical ability wise, they need some work in terms of getting up to those levels. That's definitely there, but then it's just a case by case basis, really. But certainly potential is high.
Yeah. And just so to mention that before coming to the workshop, what exactly do you have in mind that we will implement this in the workshop from FCV? FCV wants to pick up this player. So what is the kind of mentality that you are bringing in before coming into the workshop?
In terms of coming in, we're looking forward to seeing the boys in the workshop, seeing them play, watching them with the coaches and seeing how their technical abilities and things like that. My sort of role there is just working alongside Chris and some of the other guys, and just looking at, and we'll be talking all the time, watching the workshops. We're really looking forward to it. And I know Chris will be the same. We love watching players develop, watching them train. there'll be constant conversations going on at the sidelines about players, and if players want to come and talk to me, my colleagues come in as well, so we'll both be available to talk to some of the players. We're very approachable. Come and chat with us. We're not we're very approachable in terms of come and talk to us about the academy, come and talk to us about what you can expect from FCV if players were to join us in the future.
Yeah, and to measure the success of the workshop, so how will you measure the success of the workshop in terms of IKF and in the collaboration with FCV?
Yeah, I think it's the first time we've come out there, so hopefully it will be an annual thing, and we'd like to come every year. We have had discussions about bringing our coaching team out there as well to do some of the workshops, which I'm sure we'll do in the future. Particularly our head of football, Grant Brown, who's a UEFA A qualified coach, and Shane Clark, who's head of player pathways. Again, UEFA A qualified coach. They'll certainly love to come out and work with some of the boys out there. So that's definitely something we'd like to set up going forward. In terms of the workshops coming up, it's going to be an interesting experience for us to see the talent out there. Again, just learn more about the grassroots, more about the coaching styles that happen in India, and then seeing where we can help basically and bring some added value to the partnership with IKF and obviously the potential talent of the Indian players.
Yeah, and what criteria do you think that you will put in to assess the players, to assess the top talented players? What criteria will they need to fulfill?
I think, in terms of, the basics really is what you kind of look out for initially. They're going to be doing drills, and we'll be looking for the basics around ball control, passing, heading, tackling. Not so much, fitness levels, because you can't really assess that in training necessarily, just, observing them in workshops. But I think you can work on fitness. I think it's that initial basic first touch, tactical awareness, particularly in small-sided drills and things like that. How players, are the heads turning around constantly? If you watch the professionals, especially your midfielders, their heads are constantly turning around when they haven't got the ball, because they need to know where their teammates are. They're a step ahead. So certainly that, but definitely, do the basics well is what I would say.
Yeah, and talking about the parents, because you'll be giving feedback to the parents, and Indian parents, I will just like to caution you a bit that Indian parents are not that much into sports. Like they are like, sports. They think that sports is not a field to pursue. That is kind of a mentality of the Indian parents. So,
yep.
What challenges do you feel will you have in order to give the feedback to the parents that will be participating in the workshop?
Yeah, I think it's probably a bit different over here, because a lot of, you might get the dad still wants to be a footballer but didn't quite make it, so son's turn now, and they'll invest everything and try and get them to that level. But obviously, parents, need to be aware it's a very competitive industry. It's the same as whether you want to be a YouTuber or whether you want to be an influencer or a singer or whatever. But we have that balance between giving players the opportunity. And I think that's how I always talk to parents is, if they've got a talent, let's try and bring that talent to its full potential. But also alongside that, you need other avenues and other doors and other safety nets and other options. So, that's where the education side comes in. And I know parents are all very keen on, their sons doing positive things in education, because you do need that. And even players that are maybe at an academy, a professional academy in the UK now that are 15, 16, they can't take their eye off other avenues of careers and supporting themselves in later life, because, it's so competitive that they could be just dropped from that academy straight away. And before you know it, if you've not focused, you can't put all your eggs in one basket, as we say in the UK. You have to keep all your options open. So I think that's, we don't come at it from any other way than that. It's, if the players can join this academy, we will get them to their fullest potential, and then let's see where that can go. But on top of that, if they can be doing education alongside it, then you've always got those other support networks to lead them into different careers.
Yes, exactly. And coming to the benefits part of the workshop, what are the key benefits that a player can get from this workshop, especially from FCV?
Yeah, I think, from the workshops, it's a case of, showcasing your best abilities. Come in, putting in 100% effort every day that you're in. and being 100% focused as well. Even if your friends are there with you, you're there to impress whoever's watching. That's FCV and some of the other academies that are going to be there. We will be looking out for top talent, and obviously working with the other coaches there, having discussions. I'm sure they'll go well into the evening about different players, so it's a great opportunity for them to get some great coaching. That I know Chris and Jimmy are working with IKF to get that all set up, so they're getting a good level of coaching experience during the workshops, but then also delivering on the day. And that's always the case when the players go out on trial from our academy. It's some of it's over to them, and that's sport, and whether they're doing things individually or whether they're part of a small-sided game, whatever that is, doing the right things, as I said, doing the basics right, but also being a team player at the same time, because football's a team game, and we're always looking for leaders on the field, so don't shy away from it. Take the opportunity while it's there.
And just because I am from an engineering background as well, and since you mentioned that you are head of recruitment, so I have quite some means I like analysis, data analysis as well as video analysis. So what do you feel in UK, means how important is data analysis and video analysis for a player in judging a player especially?
Yeah, it's becoming more and more prevalent. Football's an ever-changing sport, both on and off the field. I think in terms of, some people don't like stats or data. Some people just like to see the raw, what's in front of their eyes, but that can be misleading sometimes and give false information of actually how effective a player is. So there's a lot of work that goes into analysis of players. So particularly at FCV, we have GPS trackers during games and training, so we can monitor player movement, so you can see where they should be and shouldn't be at certain times. Certainly if you're a midfielder, you need to be box to box potentially. It depends on your positions, but and how many kilometers you're putting in on the field and things like that, and you can measure those drop offs and things to monitor fitness. It's vital that players are at their peak. So data analysts, it certainly plays a massive part in professional sport, football in the UK and other sports. It's those fine margins that make all the difference between being very good and being elite, I suppose, in terms of getting to those next levels. So if players can have that data and then improve them year on year, then they're becoming better, maybe without even realizing it. Just everything's going up in the right direction.
And because the workshop is scheduled from 20th to 29th September, so if we talk about the tenure, it's quite short. So how do you think will you be able to manage the consistency and quality of the workshop, because it is conducted in Mumbai, Bangalore and Delhi, and these three are one of the biggest cities in India if you consider. So how do you think will you manage the consistency and quality of the workshops over all three cities?
Yeah, well, obviously this is the fourth workshop, and we're really looking forward to being a part of it. So it's, I know Chris and Jimmy and working with Hitesh and the team over at IKF to put on the best workshops that they can. They'll be very well organised, because I can just tell that's the way IKF are. So whatever value we can add in terms of making sure the players are getting the best out of it. But like I said, ultimately they are there developing and getting some coaching, but it's 50% on the workshops to put on a good workshop session for them. But if I'm talking to the players, make the most of it. Turn up, be 100% focused, and get the most out of the people that are watching you, because they're there to see you. So stand out, be confident, and give it your all, because I know IKF do, I know FCV do, and I know Chris and his team do. So it will be a great experience, and we are very excited to be out there, although we're expecting it to be very busy.
And going back to the grassroots talent in India, so how does FCV plan to bridge the gap between grassroots talent in India and professional opportunities in the UK?
I think that's obviously adding some certain advice is always useful. I'm looking forward to getting out there and talking to the guys from IKF, and I'm sure there'll be many others from the Indian football, whether that's local teams or grassroots teams. And it's always nice to share ideas and pass on experience, and find out more from each other and learn from each other first and foremost. And then in terms of players coming, a lot of lot of players want to come to Europe from around the world and test themselves, and because obviously, a lot of the big leagues are in Europe, whether that's the Premier League, La Liga, Bundesliga, Serie A. But that's the top, the cream of the crop. We have to think small steps at a time, and trying to get players, whether that's into men's football, semi-professional football, and then into professional at any level. And it may be a club in England, it may be a club in Europe, it may be a club in America, but at least you're in the pyramid. And the pyramid's big in England, but you've got to get in there. And I think coming to FCV, you've got that opportunity to do that. You've got that opportunity to be seen, developed first and foremost, pushed, motivated, and then getting those opportunities. And when those opportunities come, we hold showcase events throughout the season at FCV. So any FCV players that are at the academy will be watched by professional club scouts throughout the season. So we have that opportunity as well. But we also have our coaches that can set up trials directly with professional clubs. So it's, like we said earlier, there's going to be bags of talent in India. It's just enhancing it to the best it can. And there will be players that are ready now. We need them to pop their heads up and show us, and then we can try and get them over here.
Yeah. And just to ask you that, what do you think will the level be of Indian football in 10 years of time? Because you might be noticing Indian football as well. And if talking about a stat, in the FIFA World Cup 2022, we were third in the viewership. So there's a craze for football, but in terms of development, we are still lacking behind. So what do you think in 10 years time, what will be the level of Indian football according to you?
I think a lot of it comes down to sometimes politics, I suppose, in terms of what the drive from the government is in terms of developing the sport, because it takes infrastructure to a certain degree. There are other parts of the world, that want the same thing, but they don't have that right infrastructure in place, and that's unfortunate. But so some of it's down to what infrastructure is there. It will take time, but like I said, there will be players that are very developed now and can be playing at the top levels. And I think it's just having that focus on it, without going crazy and throwing millions and millions and millions at it, but it's doing it steady and in the right way. There are some countries that are throwing millions and millions at it, and it's like you need to start from the bottom and work up, because then it's self-sustaining.
Yes.
There's no point just having one league where you're getting ex pros from around the world to be part of it and things like that. It's building the grassroots up, building the divisions up at professional level, and getting those coaches trained up to the highest levels as well. Getting that coaching out there is massively important.
Yes. And talking about the IKF Season 4 workshop, what do you think? How will this workshop help Indian football in general, especially the grassroots?
I think it's a great opportunity for them to get some different coaching and get a different perspective on maybe what they've been learning at their local clubs and things like that, or maybe school teams, and it's going to give them that opportunity to maybe view football and training in a different way, do some different drills that they've maybe not done before. I know Chris and Jimmy are very experienced at that. Same as our coaches, some of the training that happens, when you get the right training, it's incredible to watch how quickly players can go from just being, stationary to just switching and engaging and that first touch, that awareness and all that kind of stuff is massively important. So I know, the workshops will be a great experience for the players to have that insight into different levels of coaching and different training drills that they can then take back home, replicate themselves, and certainly working with the coaches out there will be a great experience for them and invaluable.
Yes. And just the last question, what pathways does FCV offer for players aspiring to play professionally in the UK or other European countries?
Yeah, so as I previously mentioned, obviously our remit really as an academy is to develop players, and we guarantee that will happen. It's training the amount we do when you join us, and living the life of a professional footballer. Really, that's your schedule when you're with us. You are going to improve. Our coaches are incredible at what they do, and then being in regular matches as well. You know, you can't really, someone could be great on the training pitch, but that might not be the same in a competitive match. So it's, you know, building that up over time, getting better and better. And then obviously our job is to get as many players into professional or semi-professional, at least, you know, both in Europe. We've had players sign professionally this season, both in English clubs in Europe, clubs in America. And we've had that throughout our history. But certainly in the last couple of years, we've really pushed on and had a lot of success stories. We've had about 15 lads go out on trial this past season at professional clubs, both in the UK and abroad. And we're always developing those networks and partnerships. Shane Clark, who oversees our player pathways, is really good at what he does, and he's always looking for those opportunities for players.
Yeah. So that is it from this episode, the episode number 3 of the IKF Workshop Diaries. Neil, if you have any word before ending this episode, you can definitely say.
Yeah, no, again, thank you for having us. We're really looking forward to seeing as many of you out there in India. Hope the weather's going to be nice. But yeah, we're looking forward to meeting you all, and we can't wait to get the workshops undergo, and looking forward to working even closer with the IKF team.
Sure. So yeah, that is it from this episode, the episode 3 of the IKF Workshop Diaries. It was Neil Hilliard from FCV International Academy with us, and it was great chatting to you, Neil.
You too.
What's your experience about the podcast?
Sorry, say again?
What do you think of this podcast? How
Brilliant,
do you feel about the same?
Really good. Yeah, really enjoyed it. It's been a pleasure. And, you know, I can see there's a lot of passion, you know, certainly from the IKF team in doing the right things for potential players out in India. So it's very lucky to have that sort of infrastructure already there. And I think from that, it's only going to get bigger and better. And before we know it, there'll be you know, a brilliant Indian international team at the World Cups. That'd be great to see. It's inevitable. It's just, you know, time, but it will happen.
Yes, and we also are hoping for the same, that we reach the FIFA World Cup 2034, especially. They're focusing on that.
Yeah, it'd be great.
So that is it. It was a great episode, and if you are following this episode, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe my channel, as well as do register for the workshop as soon as possible, and don't miss out on this great opportunity. So that is it from our side. I'm your host and founder of All About Football. Thank you all.